A new poll asking if the Mueller report should lead to impeachment hearings. The results, sharply partisan, as you could expect. But overall, the majority of voters say no. Despite this and other polls with similar results, my next guest writes that Democrats are unlikely to resist the urge for impeachment. Karl Rove is a former White House Deputy Chief of Staff and Fox News contributor. And I look at this, and it feels like yesterday, the hearing in the Senate Judiciary Committee, it felt like the beginning of impeachment, even if they're not calling it that yet. What do you think?
I think they are torn. They want to investigate. The leadership doesn't want to impeach. But when you have Nadler and Cummings and Maxine Waters and Adam Schiff in charge of important committees and bent upon impeachment, it's going to be hard to sort of restrain them.
Take a listen to what Nancy Pelosi said earlier. It does seem like they're trying to figure out a way to bring all of this together into one thing. Watch this.
And then I began to connect the dots. We have Mitch McConnell, who in his fundraising pitches has described himself as the Grim Reaper for any legislation that comes over from the House that will go to a Senate graveyard. Calls himself the Grim Reaper. Mitch McConnell, Donald Trump, Attorney General Barr. There's a connection.
And apparently this kept her up last night, Karl.
Yeah, there is a connection. They are all Republicans, and two of them serve in the executive branch. I mean, Nancy must have been up for hours and hours and hours in front of a giant wall with sort of pieces of string connected to various articles.
Like Kerry in Homeland.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Look, let them keep going down this road. You're right. There's very highly partisan views on the issue of where we are today. Should we go forward with impeachment? The problem for the Democrats, as I put in my Wall Street Journal column this morning, is independence. If you take a look at three polls that have come out since the release of the Mueller report, in last August in the Washington Post ABC poll, 49% of independents said we ought to begin impeachment, which could end up removing Trump from office. Today it's 36. PBS National Public Radio and Marist had a poll. Should the Mueller report lead to impeachment hearings? 40-51 among independents, 40% in favor, 51 opposed.
But Karl, what about the Democratic primary then? So, I mean, I get that, but they're still in the middle of a primary. So how do you energize your base and try to win as a Democrat going into 2020 if you're not for impeachment?
Well, you know what? You got to avoid talking about the issue. What's interesting is Senator Warren and Mayor Pete and Senator Harris have all come out in favor of impeachment, and a couple of the members of Congress who are, not worthy of being mentioned.
Okay.
But everybody else is avoiding the issue.
Because then they'll have to compete for attention because you got to get it. Let's take it from me. If you're dealing with a press corps that has a limited amount of space, right, or an attention span, they're going to talk about impeachment over your plan for student loans.
Absolutely. And there are three problems there. It obscures the Democrat effort to put forward a positive message for the House Democrats. It obscures the candidates being able to talk about other things. And finally, it puts them at odds with the independents who are going to end up deciding the 2020 election. What happens if we have 12 or 13 months of the Democrats talking about investigation and impeachment, and the support for that among independents continues to drop, and every time you mention it, it angers the Republicans and energizes them? What's that going to do for the Democratic chances in the fall of 2020? Now,
but in terms of talking about other issues, should President Trump also not talk about it as much?
Well, I don't think he should, because, look, let the Democrats talk about it and let the normal actors respond to that. The president ought to use his very valuable time and his very loud megaphone to talk about the economy, not only what he's done, but his vision for the future and the other positive elements on which he hopes to get reelected. Let the Democrats spend the time talking about an investigation and impeachment. He doesn't need to spend a lot of time talking about that. There are lots of natural allies and increasingly a lot of natural resistance among independents.
All right, Karl Rove, always good to have you. Next time I have you here, we're going to go through all these other polls about the potential matchups, but it's a little early to do that. We've got a whole 16 months to go. Thanks, Karl Rove.